The Strong Style Podcast, the revolutionary force in podcast entertainment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Strong Style Podcast. I'm Todd. What do I go by on here? James? Think so. I'm James, fuckers.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
and today, we're going to have a good show.
A damn good show.
The last episode, we counted down our favorite singles wrestlers.
Yep, we're going to crack open a cold one on this one.
Jesus Christ, son. I hope it's a Steve Weiser.
You best believe it, son.
Anyway, today is going to be our top 5 favorite tag teams.
Five-time tag team champions.
Yes, and we kind of kept it to legitimate tag teams. Tag teams has been together more than a cup of coffee, but we do have 2 honorable mentions that we call the I guess superpowers.
Yeah, or you could say the mega powers. Yeah, the mega powers. Ah, there's the handshake.
And I know that one of our honorable mention superpowers is the same, which is the Outsiders.
The Outsiders.
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
Yep. I think that I had to think on this one a little bit because they were great singles wrestlers coming out of the WWF at the time, and then when they came in, invaded in WCW, they put them together. It was kind of like this duo, and then eventually led to a trio. But they were a tag team going into WCW, but they were 2 single guys that you knew at the time.
Right.
All of a sudden, a tag team. So.
And at Halloween Havoc 1996, they defeated Harlem Heat to win the tag team championship.
Sucker!
And they went on to have great matches, in my opinion, with the Faces of Fear, the Nasty Boys. They had some good matches with Luger and the Giant, and of course the Steiner Brothers.
Oh yeah,
and
great tag team.
So
became a great tag team. There you go.
And my last honorable superpower mention is 2 guys that I always love together, and that is Sting and Lex Luger.
Ooh, that's a goodie.
Yeah, they were a tag team in the early 90s.
Express, baby.
And they were a tag team in the mid-90s, capturing the tag team titles in the mid-90s, had title defenses against Harlem Heat, title defenses against the Road Warriors. So, yeah, they were always, Luger and Sting were always good friends in real life, so that transferred to the screen. So I always liked their combo.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, when you got 2 good actors or actresses that, are legitimately friends in real life and they do a movie together, it just, the chemistry is there and you can feel it. And it's no different than, when you're in a tag team with somebody that is legitimately like one of your good friends.
Yeah, and I love this storyline, especially the second run where Sting was the ultimate babyface and Luger was kind of a tweener. He was like in the Dungeon of Doom, but anytime he was with Sting, he was like a good guy, but if he wrestled by himself, he was a bad guy. So it's interesting. So
yeah, mine's gonna be the Mega Powers.
Mega Powers, yeah.
Dig it! So you had Macho at the height of his career being the WWF champion at the time, and you also had, Hogan being the entity that he was. So why not put him in a fucking tag team? And this is going to lead to eventually them feuding and, Macho Man going fucking savage and crazy.
Yeah, this was a great year-long build-up. I mean, Savage won his first title at WrestleMania 4 in '88. Hogan was a big part of that. He actually helped, combat the combination of DiBiase and Andre.
Yeah.
So That whole year, man, it was Hulkamania and Savage, and some could argue that Savage didn't get his due because Hogan's presence was so right there. But at the same time, though, they were building this feud up to eventually, turn Savage heel, which they did, and they done it for, it was built out of jealousy. They went with the Miss Elizabeth came between them type of deal. Yeah. I wish they would have just kind of stuck with, Savage is like, fuck you, you're in my spotlight. But I get it. They wanted to involve a Miss Elizabeth in some way, shape, or form, but it really didn't lead anywhere. It's not like Miss Elizabeth went with Hogan or anything like that.
Might have fucked her.
Yeah, whatever. But it was a good build-up.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoyed the feud, going back and watching it. It's still very entertaining, thanks to Savage. I mean, honestly, that's just how I feel about it. I like Hulk Hogan, but, I'm more of a Hollywood guy. But
I guess we'll jump into our top 5. All right, I guess you want me to go first.
You always go first.
Well, God, okay. Coming in at number 5, it is the Hart Foundation.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
This is the combination of Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Bret the Hitman Hart, along with Jimmy Hart. No relation.
Just the Hart.
Just the Hart. These guys were, in my opinion, the best technical tag team at that time period when WWF was not known to be technical at all. And that's thanks to Bret Hart. Anvil had the personality of, the madman, always grabbing the beard, and he was the powerhouse of the group. Bret was the technical guy. He could take the bumps. He could, feed the tag, all that good shit. And they had great matches with the likes of the British Bulldogs. They had good matches with Demolition. They had good matches with the Rockers. They pretty much had good matches with anybody they stepped into the ring with. And Bret, of course, went on to his singles career. Anvil never really got to the height that he was when he was with Bret.
No, he was kind of that middle card guy, which I mean,
yeah, he was a middle card guy, and to me, it just proves that Anvil was always better in a tag team, in my opinion. Like, he was definitely better to be the big bully guy that comes in and cleans up when personally, I think him and Owen Hart should have had a longer run that they did, but things are the way they are, and I think Anvil got fired or something, and I think they put Owen with Coco as high energy, but the Hart Foundation was, I mean, even if you don't like that era, if you don't like that, golden era of wrestling from the WWF and you think it's too cartoonish, you can always click on a Hart Foundation match and it's not what everybody else was doing. It's not
it's
the
definitely
cartoonish
solid
stuff.
And technical.
Yeah, it's especially them and the Bulldogs. They always had great matches. But that's my number 5.
I want to just I was watching I was watching something on the Cock, and they was talking about Bret Hart, and I can't remember the person that said it, but they said when you watched Bret Hart, you believed that he was really fighting for his life.
Yeah, he had a great, people like to pick on him and say he wasn't a great promo guy, but he did all right to get him by in promos, but his strong suit was his
skills in the ring.
His skills in the ring, not just his skills in the ring, but
made you believe.
His facial expressions, his
body language.
When he got thrown into a turnbuckle, I mean, he looked like he got shot with a shotgun. I mean, I mean, people say he took himself too seriously. Well, good. I'm glad he did, because he was he was a hell of a worker and a hell of a wrestler. So
yeah, absolutely. My number 5 is going to be the Dudley Boys.
Okay.
I just remember being like captivated by these guys, like seeing them on ECW. You know, when Bubba had like his Rebel Flag bandana, teaming with this big burly black guy that he was calling his brother, and I was like, what in the fuck am I watching? And then when they got in the ring, they fucking tore the house down. They stood out above all the other tag teams in ECW at the time because of how solid they were. They're not really, I wouldn't say they're technical, but they were very physical, and you felt it. Like, you felt like every time the Dudley Boys came to the ring, that somebody was getting their fucking ass whipped.
Yeah.
And that was the great thing. That's what I loved about them. And, of course, it's a reason why they excelled past ECW and their extent in WWF after, not after ECW closed, but, a little bit before it. And they, of course, went on to be in the triple threat ladder match with the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, and we're still talking about that to this day from WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah, the first one was from 2000.
Okay.
They had the TLC match at that year's SummerSlam, and then TLC 2 at that year's the following WrestleMania.
Right. And I mean, Bubba and Devon are just fucking great in the ring. Like, their chemistry is second to none. And I know that championships are given to you. You're not earned. But goddamn, if they haven't been given a lot of titles through every company they've been in. And it's for a reason. Because you believe in what they're presenting.
Yeah.
No matter how goofy from Bubba and his stuttering gimmick in ECW, all the way to, Brother Devon, it doesn't matter. You put them in the ring together, Team 3D, the Dudley Boys, whatever you want to call them, from the time to ECW all the way up to TNA to back to WWE, there's always been solid over the years. And not to mention their Death Valley Driver, their finishing maneuver. When I first saw that, I was like, what the... I said Death Valley Driver.
Dudley Death Drop.
The Dudley Death Drop. When I first saw that, I was like, holy shit, what a fucking great finishing tag team maneuver. And that's the thing that I believe that really sells me in a tag team is when they come up with their own signature maneuver. And that's why I believe they're so great. And not to mention, they've just been consistently good over the years. And you don't really get that with just, putting like Hogan and Savage together.
Right.
And that's what I love about the Dudley Boys.
My number 4 is the Dudley Boys as well. So,
elaborate.
Everything that you said, I agree with. I mean, these guys, in my opinion, from 1997 until 1999, were the best heel tag teams in the business.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you talk about Shane Douglas cutting like fiery promos on people. That was Bubba Ray in ECW.
Look at this whore in the front row that taught her daughter how to suck dick.
Yeah, he was very
vocal.
He was vile.
He was. You fucking hated him.
He was an old school heel, and Bubba always had the attitude of he never wanted to be a cool heel. He thought that sucked. He either wanted to be cheered or he wanted to be fucking hated, and that's exactly what he did. He never wanted to be the tweener cool heel, and
he was looking at you, Bucks.
Yeah, fuck the Bucks. Anyway,
the buck stops here.
This is about the Dudley Boys. I'm not even going to give them time. Fuck them. But yeah, the Dudley Boys, they eventually made their way to WWF, and they were just as successful, even more successful in WWE than in ECW, just because of the exposure alone. And the 3 tag teams that you always talk about during that period is the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Dudleys. And the Dudleys are by far my favorite. A lot of people like the Hardys because they were high-flying and everything. That's cool. Edge and Christian, little bit more technical with the high-flying stuff, but I like the Dudley Boys because they were physical. I like physical wrestlers. That's why we call this podcast the Strong Style Podcast. We like physical wrestlers that get in the ring and, make it seem real. We talked about Bret Hart making it look real. We talked about the Dudley Boys making it look real. We talked about, the Outsiders earlier when they first came in. They was throwing Rey Mysterio through fucking trailers. People thought it was real. And, baseball bats and everything else to people. So, yeah. I dig the Dudley Boys, and well deserved. And you elaborated on it earlier. You said everywhere they went, they've been trusted to be the champions, and that's because they deliver. No matter what you want them to do, if you want them to be the
Love
face,
them or hate them,
or if you want them to be the heels, they can do whatever. They're a tag team that you want. It's kind of hard to get people to boo the Hardy Boys, but you can boo the Dudleys just like that and then turn around and cheer them just like that. It's a little bit harder to do that with somebody like the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, because they're just,
Yeah, it's like that, that Ricky
They're
Morton
what the Bucks
effect.
wish they could be. But enough of that shit. Jumping into number 4. Oh, you didn't know? It's got to be the New Age Outlaws. Oh, Mr. Badass Billy Gunn and Road Dogg Jesse James. It's kind of like one of these duos that in the, what would you say, the mid-90s? About 93, 94, they were kind of like shitty gimmicks that really wasn't going nowhere. You had
Billy Gunn came into the company in probably late 92, early 93 as part of the Smoking Guns.
There you go, 93.
And I don't think Road Dogg got there until probably 95-ish as the roadie for Jeff Jarrett.
I don't know. It seems like it was in the same time period, but that's what I was
Billy
getting
Gunn had been there way more, like a lot longer than Road Dogg did.
Right. But yet they were, in dead-end gimmicks,
Oh yeah,
no fault of their own.
The rockabilly and the real Double J.
Oh God, terrible. So I'm not exactly sure why they decided to stick these guys together. Do you know?
Well, Road Dogg has told a story about how they were enemies fighting each other every freaking week. And, they wasn't really getting a crowd reaction, even though Rockabilly was stuck with Honky Tonk Man.
Yeah. I remember, yeah.
But the biggest pop that they ever got was when they took the guitar and hit Honky Tonk Man and said, fuck off, right?
Yeah.
And then the next week, they started doing, like, their juvenile shit,
Yeah.
They just became
wearing a South Park shirt and all sorts
yeah,
of
wearing
shit.
the South Park shirts, being the edgy guys, they went from being extremely fucking lame to being everything that was cool at that time in culture.
Right.
So, and Road Dogg got to express his strong suit, which is the mic work, and Billy Gunn has always been solid in the ring, always been a solid performer. So you put the mic work of Road Dogg and the in-ring work with Billy Gunn, and goddamn, it was history
gold.
from there. Yeah, it was gold.
Road Dogg, he's more, I don't know, a brawler? Would you say he's more of a brawling style, like that?
Yeah, I would say that he's definitely not technical. He's more of a
Like kind of a flashy,
more of a rough around the edges
Yeah.
type of wrestler, as opposed to Billy Gunn, who is more of that strong, technical type, and takes great bumps and stuff.
Yeah, and me being a kid, the reason why I'm picking these are the wrestlers that like influenced me and like captivated me as a kid. So I'm gonna stick true to that kid that was into this. And when they got big and popular, and then it was just like kind of a no-brainer when they kind of, I ain't gonna say reformed DX, but kind of evolved DX while putting the Outlaws in there along with X-Pac and everything. It was just fucking, it was gold. Not to mention you were getting fucking great matches out of them, you know.
Yeah, and I think
Mike
it's funny.
Gold.
Yeah, I think it's funny at the time when they first got together and when they first like started the new DX or whatever. They tried to push them as heels and it wouldn't work, but they were too over with the fans.
Yeah, they were like white hot.
Yeah.
There was no way that they were like nobody's gonna boo them.
Yeah,
Especially with their catchphrase. Like,
yeah, they were
still
too
second to
good.
none.
They were too good to stay heels, and you know, after that, DX became extremely popular. I mean, and they were probably on par, if not more popular than probably you know, I guess you could say the Wolfpack popular.
Yeah.
So, you know, and without Billy and Road Dogg, I don't think they would have nearly been as popular as they were. Because, let's face it, I mean, it's because of the Road Dogg having the catchphrase. That's the reason why Triple H came up with the catchphrase that he did. So, you know, he had to stay on that level with them. So.
Yeah, it was like Triple H, you know, or was it Triple H or Undertaker that said during that time, everybody was always stepping up their game, so you always had to step up your game.
Yeah.
And then that was the great thing about the Outlaws.
Yeah, not only were you competing against the other company, but you were competing against the other guys for spots on the roster.
Yeah. And the Outlaws didn't need the titles to be popular.
No, they didn't need the titles to be popular, but they were always a crowd pleaser when they did win the titles.
Oh, absolutely. I pop for it every time. But that's just why I picked the Outlaws for mine.
Sweet. Well, my number 3 is the Steiner Brothers.
Same.
Yeah. The Steiner Brothers, Rick started a little bit earlier than Scott did. By the time Scott got to the WCW, Rick had already been like a television champion and everything else. But when Scott came in, he came in like a ball of fucking fire. And if you go back and you look at like the PWI, like best singles wrestlers, Scott Steiner, even like 1 or 2 years in, was always ranked like singles. But if you look at tag teams, Steiners were always ranked as well. And you could, these were two guys that you legitimately could not fuck with.
Fuck no.
Like you can't. I don't care who you are. I mean, you could have given them a good fight, but
you're not shooting on the Steiners.
No, you're not shooting. I mean, it's one thing to be big and tough and be a good street fighter and punch somebody in the face. That's cool. But when somebody can get a hold of you and dump you on your head and break your neck, there's not really too many punches you can throw at them.
Because they were legitimate wrestlers.
Yeah, they were legitimate collegiate wrestlers. And
not to mention big as a fucking brick shithouse.
Yeah.
Both of them.
And, you know, even though they were a tag team and they were known as a tag team, they had their gimmicks, you know. Rick was the dog-faced gremlin, and Scott was just the strong, like, you know, don't fuck with me type. And he created the Frankensteiner. That's what it's named after. The Frankensteiner is called the Frankensteiner because the goddamn Steiners came up with it.
Yeah, which I think's funny, but it's, you know, everybody...
Yeah, everybody thinks it's some goddamn...
lucha move.
Yeah, some masked
Hurricanrana.
Yeah, I mean, Hurricane Rana, whatever, you know. And there is a difference between a Frankensteiner and a Hurricane Rana.
It is.
A Hurricane Rana is more of a hit scissors takeover. A Frankensteiner is jumping up, grabbing your head with my fucking thighs and driving it into the mat.
Yeah. But
and
the Frankensteiner was first.
Yeah, the Frankensteiner was first.
It just
tweaked it. You know, it was always more impressive for me for a guy like Scott Steiner to do it than a guy like Rey Mysterio, simply because the size difference. Yeah. And anyway, you could put them in the ring against anybody. Doom, the Freebirds, Sting and Luger, the Road Warriors, the Harlem Heat, the Nasty Boys, Public Enemy. They went to WWF, won WWF Gold, wrestled the Heavenly Bodies, wrestled the Quebecers. They wrestled everybody. Everywhere they went, they also won their tag team titles. Like, if the Steiner brothers would have stayed together and they wouldn't have done their singles pushes in the late 90s where Scott shaved his head and all that stuff, we wouldn't be talking about the Dudley Boys being the most decorated tag team.
Oh, absolutely.
We would still be talking about the Steiner brothers because that's what happened. And, Scott went on to win world championships. Rick went on to win television titles again. And, they were just a great tag team. They were just a great, and we talk about strong style. They were the epitome. I mean, you look at any match from WCW or WWF and it's going to be great. Go even further into the catalog. Look at their stuff in Japan. It's even more impressive.
Yeah, I was always a fan of their WCW work. I don't know. That Rick and Scott is just, the chemistry's there because they're brothers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What better to be partners with than your brother? And they both were tough as nails, and they both, I am a big suplex guy.
Yeah, same.
I love guys like Taz and Kurt Angle and people like that.
Benoit.
And before any of that, it was the Steiners.
Right.
Like, there's some people that did suplexes every once in a while. There were some people that had amateur backgrounds that incorporated kind of the throws or whatever, but the Steiners were the first guys that I saw, like, almost all their offenses besides fucking Steiner lines were fucking suplexes.
Yeah. It was very, like, grab you and toss your ass.
Yeah, it was.
As much as possible.
Yeah, and, in my opinion, you talk about a guy like Brock Lesnar now that only relies on suplexes. Like, that's his whole fucking gimmick right there. It's just German suplex after German suplex after German suplex, which, he doesn't have to do much,
Yeah.
But, you want to talk about, like, the fucking belly-to-bellies and the Germans and the fucking T-bone suplexes and all that shit came from the Steiners.
Yeah. Love the Steiners. It's not really too much I can elaborate on. I mean, you pretty much hit the nail right on the head. I mean, they're fucking amazing. What is your number 2?
My number 2 is Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the Brainbusters.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very difficult for me to pick one tag team with Arn Anderson, but I think that his most successful and the best tag team he's ever been a part of is with Tully Blanchard. I think that they, by far, were the best heel tag team of the 80s. And when they went to WWF, it was just continued. Again, these guys were so good that they were the tag team champions in Crockett, which was the number one competition to the WWF. And when they left Crockett and they went to WWF in '89, they won the fucking tag team titles there. That's something that you'd never do. Vince never brought in guys from another organization that were champion, and like within a few weeks, a few months, they were his champions. He didn't do that. He made you, he made you earn it, or he put you on television as a good hand, but it was not like, oh, you're going to win my title. No, it was like no question about it. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard were WWF Tag Team Champions like almost immediately.
Yeah,
and put with Bobby the Brain Heenan as their manager.
To say about Bobby.
Yeah, I mean that's how they got the name. Before there was actually a move called the Brain Buster, they were called the Brain Busters, and it was because Bobby the Brain Heenan was their manager. And, it was like, oh, here's the Brain Busters, and they worked out very successfully. Unfortunately, they didn't get to come back to WCW. By the time they came back, or by the time Arn came back, Crockett had ceased to exist, and now it was WCW. And Arn went on to, have many more partners. He was partners with Flying Brian. He was partners with Paul Roma. He was partners with just about anybody you can think of at one time. Bobby Eaton.
Yeah.
Before Tully Blanchard, him and Ole were a tag team, and I think that says a lot that Arn can go from arguably what was the early 80s best tag team, which was him and Ole as the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, to the late 80s best tag team, the Brainbusters, him and Tully. I think that Arn Anderson is the best tag team wrestler of all time because you literally can put him together with anybody on your roster, and that is your tag team of the year.
Yeah, he's almost like the Shawn Michaels of tag teams.
Yeah, he's, as far as championships and all that, he's probably the best television champion of all time, multiple tag team champion. Never won the big gold belt, so, if you want to say he's underrated because of that he never got the main event push, that's fine, but he was the guy that you always worked with. The babyface always worked with Arn before they went and worked with Rick. So
right.
If you can work with Arn and get some good shit out of Arn, then, 9 times out of 10, you was going to be able to work with Flair and get some good shit out of him. So.
Yeah, and the thing with Arn, people say, yeah, he never got the title, but we're still talking about Arn Anderson to this day, and the reason is because of the caliber of wrestler he was. He's fucking amazing, and he really didn't need a title, hence why we're still talking about Arn Anderson to this day, because of how amazing and technical and violent he was, and great on the microphone.
Yeah, he was one of these guys. We talked about him in our top favorite singles wrestlers. We talked about how he was just, he's
a total package, honestly.
He was reliable, You put him in the ring. I mean, anybody. I mean, you need somebody to work with Johnny B. Bad. You need somebody to work with the fucking Renegade, Anybody, you put, fuck Nails. But you can put him in the ring with anybody, and yeah, not only was he a great singles, but obviously he's a great tag team wrestler, which is why he's number 2.
Yeah, I'm just going to let you know that our friends that do listen to this podcast are going to be very upset because we talked about the Steiners.
Why?
Because you did not do your Scott Steiner.
Oh, God.
Brandon is going to kill you.
Well, I care about 2 things, my freaks and my peaks.
Love it.
There you go, Brandon.
As far as your number 1, I'm pretty sure your number 1 and my number 1 are the same number 1.
Yep, and that would be the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom.
LOD.
Again, this tag team, not a technical tag team at all. You're not going to get headlocks. You're not going to get go-behinds. You're not going to get drop toe holds and all this other shit. You're going to get your ass fucking beat.
Yep, you're going to get your ass handed to you on a silver platter.
These were 2 big bitches that were put together, inspired by the Mad Max Road Warrior movies, which are awesome movies. Check them out if you don't watch them, by the way. The music, the Black Sabbath music.
Yeah, when they first were developing their characters.
Yeah, you put Paul Ellering with them as a manager. Honestly, they really didn't need Paul, but Paul was kind of, he was the intellect. You know what I mean? Like, he was the
yeah, he was the brains.
Yeah, he was like the brains. Like you had these two big guys that just yelled at you and told you that they were going to tear you apart, but then behind them it was kind of like this Lex Luthor type of, Dr. Evil type of deal, like, I'm releasing my animals on you type of deal,
Which he is very underrated as a manager, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. And, whether we're talking about the AWA, Crockett, the WWF, WCW, they had stints in Japan where...
amazing work in Japan. God damn.
Together and with different partners, actually. I mean, they were the tag team. And by far, I mean, you can't mention the Legion of Doom without mentioning the best theme song of all time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They've been one to have very continuous, good intro music. Not to mention the look of them with the face paint, the haircuts, the spikes, the long tights. I mean, what a spectacle.
Yeah, everybody tries to say that Ric Flair was the first cool bad guy that people kind of wanted to boo but cheered at the same time. I disagree with that. I think the Road Warriors were the first guys that people knew were bad, but they didn't care. They cheered for them anyway.
Yeah, because they were so fucking awesome. Everybody wants to be that guy that can just walk into a room and everybody looks at and they're like, that guy's cool, and I don't want to fuck with that guy.
Yeah, and that's known as what is called a Road Warrior pop. And that is when that music hits and you first stepped out on that curtain, you don't have to do shit. They just see you and they hear the music, and the entire crowd just fucking erupts. And that's what the Road Warriors did.
And once again, going back to tag teams that have their own signature maneuver, the Doomsday Device.
Yeah. The Doomsday Device, Animal puts him on his shoulders. Hawk goes up top for the top rope. Guillotine clothesline. He turns the guy inside outwards. Always looks fucking cool. Always was dangerous if you didn't know how to take the bump right. Ask Henry Godwin on that.
Yeah, but, it was a very simple finishing maneuver, but goddamn if it didn't look devastating.
Well, if it was pulled off by any other tag team, it would be simple. But since this was fucking 300-pound, 6'3" fucking guys
fucking
doing it.
Meat with legs.
Yeah, it goes back to that Frankensteiner thing. Like, Rey Mysterio during the Hurricane Rana, that's fucking cool and everything. Yeah, okay. But he's 150 pounds.
Yeah.
Scott Steiner doing a Frankensteiner, that's way more fucking impressive in my opinion. Not that I don't appreciate what Ray did, but let's be a little realistic here, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, having Hawk jump off the top turnbuckle when you're already on Animal's shoulders had to be fucking scary, especially knowing that Animal's about to fucking flip you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting dumped whether you like it or not.
Yeah, and, there's not much more I can say about LOD. I mean, I get that some people wouldn't have them at the top of their list for being, they're technical. I admit it the first time.
They're not technical.
Yeah, when we first started talking about them, I admitted they're not the best technical wrestler, but you keep mentioning the total package. Not mentioning Lex Luger, but the actual total package of a professional wrestler group. I can't think of any tag team ever in history that had the impact and had, and was so over with the fans more than the Road Warriors.
Yeah, the Road Warriors were fucking amazing, even all the way to the LOD 2000.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that, but,
I was a fan of it. Because I just loved, watching LOD, and I was very excited as a kid. I really didn't like how it ended, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I'm still a fan even all the way up to, now. unfortunately.
Yeah,
we don't have them here anymore.
Thank goodness that in 2003, they had one final match on Raw, and they were the surprise opponents for Rob Van Dam and Kane.
Yeah.
And they put on, it was a short and sweet match. They went there, they did the favor. It was great to see them. One last, hoorah. They made an appearance or two in TNA, but I don't think they ever wrestled.
Yeah, I don't think they ever signed a contract or anything like
because later that year, unfortunately in 2003, that's when Hawk died.
Yeah,
and just a few years ago, maybe a year or two ago, Animal just died. So neither one of those guys are with us anymore,
unfortunately.
And but both of them, they're in the Hall of Fame, as they should be.
Absolutely.
We can talk shit about the Hall of Fame, how it's not legitimate, all we want to, but that's cool. But if we were putting together a Hall of Fame, the first bound Hall of Fame tag team has to be Legion of Doom.
Absolutely. 100%. LOD all day, baby.
All right, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to do this little thing. I went through and wrote down all of the WWE champions from the 1990s.
All right.
And I wrote down how many times they won the championship, and altogether, not including multiple title reigns by the same guy, altogether we had 19 champions in the 90s, right?
Okay.
So, here we go. We had the Ultimate Warrior, who was a one-time champion.
Okay.
We had Sergeant Slaughter, who was a one-time champion. We had Hulk Hogan, who is a three-time champion.
All right.
We have The Undertaker, who is a three-time champion.
Rightfully so.
We have Ric Flair, who is a two-time WWF champion.
That's crazy.
Randy Savage, one-time champ, only in the 90s, though. We're not counting 80s. So remember that.
Gotcha.
Bret Hart, five-time WWF champion.
In the 90s?
In the 90s.
Wow. Okay.
Yokozuna, two-time.
All right.
Bob Backlund, once. Diesel, once. Shawn Michaels, three times. Psycho Sid, two times. Steve Austin, four times. Kane, one time. The Rock, three times. Mankind, three times. Triple H, two times. Vince McMahon, once. And finally, we ended the decade with The Big Show as the champ. One-time champ. So, out of all those guys, who do you think was the best champion? All of their title reigns together, who was the best champion, WWF champion of the 90s? Before you answer, and you're thinking about it,
yeah,
I'm going to tell you mine, okay?
All
now,
right.
I'm stuck here, okay?
Yeah.
It's between two guys, and I'm going to tell you why I'm picking this guy, okay?
Okay.
Now, the runner-up is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
God, I had a feeling you were just going to say that.
He is the reason why the Attitude Era exploded. He's the reason why the boom period of the Attitude Era happened. He was the Hulk Hogan of the Attitude Era. No doubt about it. He was the biggest thing in professional wrestling since Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
However, as a champion, Bret Hart.
I knew you was going to say Bret Hart.
Not just because he won it 5 times, but because of the caliber of matches that he put on. Steve Austin was a superstar. Let's admit it, though. He never put on the matches Bret Hart put on.
Well, they're two different wrestlers.
Well,
nothing. No, you've got fucking Bret Hart that is your technician, and then you have Stone Cold that is a fucking brawler at bay. I mean, honestly.
But the fact is, Austin did not become a brawler until after he broke his neck. Unfortunately, the only time he was champion was after he broke his neck.
Yeah.
if Austin never would have broke his neck, he wouldn't have been that guy. He would have been the whole reason the feud between Bret Hart and Steve Austin happened was because Bret Hart, well, first of all, Steve Austin called out Bret Hart, and Bret Hart openly admitted that he was the best technical wrestler in the company at that point.
Yeah, true. I mean, God, that's fucking tough. I mean,
I say Bret Hart because he went over in Germany. He was a real world champion. Like, people say, oh, Bret thought he was a real world champion. Well, goddamn it, he was. He went over to fucking Germany and France and and Canada and all these other places. He was a legit world champion. He didn't just defend it in fucking Cleveland, or whatever the fuck. He was a real world champion. And the caliber of matches that he had with these guys on a nightly basis, guys with Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, the list goes on and on with guys that he worked with, that he elevated. Even guys that were not known to have great technical matches ended up having great technical matches. Guys like Kevin Nash, Diesel, not a technical wrestler at all. Go back and watch his matches with Bret Hart. They're fucking perfect.
Because it's Bret Hart, though.
I'm fucking putting him over here, motherfucker.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying that's because he's Bret Hart. I'm not disagreeing with you. Did I ever say that I disagree with you?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not like driving home my point to prove the point. I'm just driving home the point of why I picked him. I'm totally open if you pick somebody else.
Well, that was honestly between my two also. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Shawn Michaels is Shawn Michaels, but I mean,
yeah, Shawn Michaels is a great performer.
Yeah,
not a great champion.
Yeah, exactly. And besides, I mean, honestly, a lot of his matches that stick out to you doesn't involve the world title. I'm just saying, like, why I didn't pick him. Undertaker, he had some pretty good feuds, but I mean, the caliber of matches were, eh.
Yeah, it wasn't until late 90s where, Mick Foley came into the company, where Undertaker was still doing the Dead Man, Purple Glove, doing the slow stuff, doing the gimmick stuff. And it wasn't until Mick Foley... Yeah, it wasn't until Mick Foley came and had that aggressive style that made Undertaker pick up his pace.
Yeah.
And, after that, his matches started to get a little bit more realistic, honestly. So, I think you got to credit Mick Foley for that.
Oh, absolutely. He definitely elevated him and Taker. Honestly, I'm gonna agree with you, but I'm gonna tell you why I agree with you. You might agree with me. I don't know. I think that you're right that Bret Hart did have a lot more better technical matches, but I also believe the people that he had to wrestle was better than what Austin had. Yes, Austin had probably, bigger superstars at that time, or bigger name wrestlers, like The Rock and Vince McMahon, bigger characters, but they were never really technical or very, very well diverse in the ring as the talent that Bret had.
Yeah, I get that. Austin was more of he was a champion. He was a champion during the Attitude Era, also known as a very chaotic era, where anything and everything, it was Crash TV each and every fucking week. So,
and you had shitty wrestlers with popular gimmicks.
Yeah, there were a lot of wrestlers that would have never gotten over just on their wrestling ability alone, because they had a catchphrase, or because they were sexual, or they done something that was cool to the culture. They got over. And I'll agree with you. Bret Hart was a champion in a time where wrestling was what put you over. And even though business was down, I think a lot of people, had some missed opportunities. Like, if they wasn't watching wrestling during that 93, 94, 95 period that Brett was really putting in the work,
Yeah.
they missed some good shit, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And that's just my opinion. Now, I'm not arguing that, business was down and Austin is the one that brought them back and all that shit. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's unfortunate that when Bret Hart was at his absolute best, the entire wrestling world was down. I don't care who was champion. It was just down. And, here's another statistic on that list. The longest reigning champion on that list that I just named you was Diesel. He was a champion.
Wow.
He was a champion for either a little over or close to a year.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's
He
crazy.
won the championship at the end of 94 when he beat Bob Backlund at a house show
Yeah, I was about to say the
in
house
Madison
show.
Square Garden, and he lost the championship to Bret Hart.
I was going to say, yeah, didn't he lose it to Bret Hart?
He lost it to Bret Hart at Survivor Series 95.
God damn. Who would have I'll be honest with you. I totally did not know that.
Yeah, and,
It's like I kind of assumed it, but I didn't fully know it.
and that's another guy that gets talked shit a lot. Kevin Nash gets talked shit on a lot, and, Quad Nash, and people think that's so goddamn funny. But he put in work, so, he's laughing to the bank.
I was about to say, he's laughing his ass to the bank.
Yeah, he's got his own podcast, and it's very enjoyable. I enjoy listening to it.
Hey, Kenny, how
And-
many shirts have you sold?
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But I thought that'd be a little fun thing to end this shindig on.
I dig it, sucker.
All right, well, I guess that's going to do it.
Yeah, we want to thank y'all for tuning in to this episode number 2 of
Episode number 2.
Strong Style Podcast.
Electric Boogaloo.
Strong Tile Stew, Electric Boogaloos.
But, yeah, we're going to get together. We're going to bring you some more content.
Have some special friends and guests.
Yeah, we'll have some special friends come over to
As soon as
discuss this
I can
thing.
figure out how to do this goddamn 3-way thing. And not in a sexual way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. We really do appreciate it. I'm James.
And I'm Todd saying toodaloo.
Wrong podcast.